My name is Naomi Lane. I'm 24, and I work on the 32nd floor of a building where everyone pretends they aren't hiding something. We all wear it, the smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the tone that's just one note too polite. It's how you survive here. Keep your head down, stay useful, never ask questions. I used to be good at that. Then Hannah died. They said it was a suicide, that she jumped from her balcony in the middle of the night, no note, no witnesses. I had to clear her apartment. I had to tell her mom. I had to explain to my landlord why I still flinched every time I heard a key in the door that wasn't mine. And I had to keep showing up here, to this glass and polish firm where she once smiled through 12-hour days and whispered to me after wine, "It's not the work that scares me, it's who's watching me do it." She never told me who, but today I shook his hand. Theo Cartwright, senior associate, sharp suit, sharper smile, a man with a calm voice that people stop talking when they hear. I'd seen him before, but always from a distance, those rare glimpses in the elevator or across the conference floor. He wasn't my direct supervisor. Until now. "Naomi, you'll be assisting Mr. Cartwright on the Centera audit," my manager had said that morning. "Confidential project. He requested you." He requested me. When he turned toward me and smiled, I felt the chill before he even said my name. But it was hours later, in the copy room, of all places, that it happened. I dropped a file, he bent down, just behind me, and his hand touched my back lightly. Lower back, just above the waistband. It wasn't inappropriate, not legally, not clearly, but it was identical to the way Hannah once described someone touching her. A man she wouldn't name, a gesture she said made her skin crawl because it was too familiar, too entitled, like he knew he owned that moment. I froze. He moved past me like nothing happened, flipping through pages, giving a small nod. "You're efficient. I like that." My heart was still pounding when I walked back to my desk. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then I opened the drawer where I'd kept Hannah's old flash drive, untouched for months. I plugged it in and typed the name I swore I wouldn't say again. Cartwright. One folder blinked awake. Password protected. Named, if something happens to me. The thing about Hannah was, she never trusted anyone with her passwords, not even me. She'd joke about it, say she used things she'd never forget, but never say. I always thought that meant birthdays, maybe an old pet's name. But now, sitting at my desk with my hand trembling over the keyboard, I realized something else. She meant people. People she couldn't forgive. People she never said out loud because speaking their names made them real. I typed another. Theo. Incorrect. I tried his name, then you know who, then no light, something she'd once muttered in her sleep, sweaty and pale after working late. Nothing worked. I closed the file and yanked the flash drive out just as someone passed behind me. A tall silhouette, coffee in hand, crisp white sleeves, charcoal gray suit. Theo Cartwright didn't look at me, just walked by and spoke casually to someone in HR. But I saw the way the receptionist's smile dropped when she turned away from him. I waited 2 hours before I went to the records room. The cameras in there were always glitching, and I knew no one would bother me. I needed to think, to remember something that Hannah said, something I ignored at the time. She'd once told me, "The password is buried in the way they touched me." And just like that, it came to me. A word she said once, quietly, when I asked her if she was okay. Proximity. I whispered it as I typed it in. PROXIMITY. Click. The folder opened. Inside were 3 things. A single voice recording labeled Wednesday, a memo draft titled Formal Complaint, and a photo. Just one. Blurry, taken in a mirror. Hannah's reflection, and someone else behind her, hand on her back. I stared at that photo for what felt like hours. I couldn't see his face, but I recognized the watch. Sleek, black, monogrammed. The same one Cartwright was wearing when he touched me today. And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. The photo wasn't high resolution. Maybe it was taken on a laptop webcam, or maybe Hannah had snapped it in a moment of panic. But the watch, that was clear. Black band, silver lining, cursive initials on the face, TC. I knew what that meant now. And still, I told myself I wasn't sure, because being sure would mean doing something, saying something, risking everything. So, instead, I acted like I was fine. Like I didn't spend the whole next day staring at Cartwright's wrists in meetings, like I didn't notice how he rolled up his sleeves precisely at 11:45, how he didn't wear the watch today, as if he knew I'd seen it. I didn't ask him about Hannah, not yet. But he brought her up anyway. We were in the glass conference room, door closed, going over an audit packet. I could feel his presence behind me again, standing too close, reading over my shoulder instead of taking a seat like a normal person. "I knew Hannah," he said, suddenly. I didn't move. I just breathed through the static in my ears. "She worked under me, briefly," he continued. "Smart girl, sensitive, one of those people who notice too much." "She didn't talk about you," I replied carefully. He let out a small laugh, the kind people make when they know something you don't. "No," he said. "I imagine she wouldn't." When I finally turned around, he was looking at me the same way he looked at everyone, like he already knew what I'd say next. His expression didn't change. But I swear to you, his eyes did. For a moment, they weren't amused or curious. They were watching me watch him. And I realized then, if I wanted answers, I couldn't be the girl at the desk anymore. I had to be someone else, someone closer, someone he'd let touch the same part of him Hannah did, the part that made him hide the watch. I'm not proud of what I did next. But if you want to know what happened, if you want to understand how someone like me ended up where I did, you have to know the difference between wanting something and needing to know the truth. I didn't want Theo Cartwright, but I needed him to want me, because if he touched me again, in that same way, if he said the same things Hannah wrote about in her half-deleted journal entries, if he let his mask drop even for a second, I'd know it wasn't all in my head. I wore her perfume the next day. I wore the blazer she left behind, soft navy, frayed thread near the cuff. I'd always told her it was too big on me, but I wore it anyway. And when Cartwright passed my desk, he paused. "Morning," he said, slow, like it meant something. "New scent." I looked up. Old memory. He stared at me a moment too long. That afternoon, he asked me to bring the finalized reports to his office, not via email. Hard copies, he said. Some things are better off not being archived. When I knocked on his glass door, he didn't look up from his phone, just gestured to the table. I walked in, careful, like I wasn't already watching every move. And then, as I leaned forward to place the papers down, he did it. That same touch. His palm on the small of my back. Fingertips steady, not lingering. Just enough pressure to feel claimed. Exactly like Hannah said. I didn't react. I couldn't. But I heard her voice in my memory, barely a whisper. It's the kind of touch that says, I could hurt you, but I won't. Not yet. I stood up straight and turned to face him. He was already back at his desk, flipping through emails. Calm, innocent. "Anything else?" I asked. He looked at me then, and this time I saw it. Not attraction, not dominance. Recognition. He remembered her in me. I didn't cry when I left his office. I didn't scream. I didn't break. I just walked straight to the restroom, locked the farthest stall, and opened the photo of Hannah again on my phone. The one from the flash drive. The blurry reflection. The hand on her back. The watch. It was the same hand. And now I knew the way it felt, not just in theory, in body memory. Some people remember through scent, others by sound. Me, I remember people by the way they take up space. Cartwright's presence was like fog with edges, cold, surrounding, but sharpened at the corners, calculated, rehearsed. He didn't get flustered. Not even when he got too close, especially then. I remembered how Hannah used to shrink into herself when she was anxious, how she'd change the subject when I asked if she was seeing someone. She'd once slipped and said, "He's the kind of man who likes people best when they're afraid of losing him." I hadn't understood it then. I do now. That night, I pulled out the last physical thing I had of Hannah's, a small jewelry box from our apartment. Inside, tucked beneath a pair of earrings, was a folded note. Not a letter, not addressed to anyone, just a phrase, scribbled in her rushed, slanted handwriting. If he touches her the same way, she'll know. It wasn't meant for me. It was meant for whoever came after her. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed with the light on, the flash drive plugged into my laptop, the photo open, paused on that frozen, damning moment. I zoomed in. I adjusted brightness. I inverted the colors, looking for proof, looking for escape. Somewhere between 2 and 3 a.m., I found it. A second image file, hidden in the metadata folder. No thumbnail, no label, just a timestamp. 1:47 a.m., the night Hannah died. I clicked it. A screenshot, chat window open. It was her and him. Not Cartwright's name, but the tone, the timing, the phrasing. It was all Cartwright. She was trying to end it. He was trying to reason. Then guilt. Then silence. The last message he typed said, "You're just like the others. You make me cruel. You shouldn't have asked so many questions." I stared at that line for 10 minutes. He never confessed, not directly, not in a way you could take to court. But sometimes the absence of a denial is the clearest admission. The next morning, I walked into the office like nothing happened. I wore red lipstick, Hannah's shade. She always said it made her feel brave. I never used it before, but that morning, I needed armor. He saw me, stopped mid-conversation, stared, and then he smiled. That same Cartwright smile, like nothing in the world could reach him, as if guilt was a concept meant for people beneath him. But I knew now, he wasn't smiling at me. He was smiling at her, the version of me he thought he'd already broken once. He didn't realize I came back different. It took a week to get everything in place. Not because it was hard, but because it had to look effortless. I copied the files from the flash drive to a clean, untraceable device. I printed the transcript of that final message. I packaged everything inside an envelope labeled anonymously, addressed not to HR, not to legal, but to a journalist Hannah once referenced in her notes, someone who owed her a favor. Meanwhile, Cartwright continued as if nothing had changed. His hand brushed mine in the break room. His voice lingered when he said, "You've been quiet this week, Naomi. I hope you're not pulling away." He still thought I was playing along, still thought I was one of the ones who'd be afraid to lose him. But I'd already lost something worse. That Friday, I walked into his office one last time, under the guise of delivering Q4 summaries. The door shut. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Do you trust me?" he asked, eyes narrowed with curiosity. "No," I said plainly. His head tilted. He laughed, soft, low. "Fair enough," he replied, "but you're still here." I smiled, a real one this time. Not for long. And I dropped the flash drive on his desk. His smile faded. "That's a copy," I said. "The original's gone. And someone else already has it." "Who?" "I think you already know the answer to that." He didn't speak, just looked at the drive, at me, then back at the drive. For the first time since I met him, Theo Cartwright looked uncertain. I walked out of the room and didn't look back. 3 days later, the headline broke. Senior associate accused in intern's death. New evidence suggests pattern of psychological abuse. He didn't show up to the office after that. I heard rumors that he'd vanished, that he was on sabbatical, that he was lawyering up. I didn't care. I was done being the girl in someone else's story. It's been 4 weeks since the story broke. 4 weeks of silence, speculation, and shifting stares. Some people at the firm act like they didn't know him. Others whisper like they're worried I'll name names. I don't. Not because I'm protecting them, but because I've said what needed to be said. The day the story aired, I went to Hannah's grave. It's quiet there, the kind of quiet you feel in your chest. Not heavy, just hollow, the way missing someone sounds. There was still no official ruling on her death. The file stayed closed, but now the truth had teeth, and it bit loud enough for people to listen. I brought a single red tulip, her favorite, and I told her everything. Not out loud, not with words, but by standing there, unafraid, by surviving. Sometimes I still feel him, Cartwright, in rooms he no longer enters, a presence like a smirk behind the curtain, like a hand just shy of skin. But it's fading. The memory doesn't sting the same way, because now I know the truth about her, about him, and about myself. I'm not the girl who flinches anymore. I'm the one who remembers. And that's the thing about men like him. They count on you forgetting, but I never will.